Environmental Studies, Part 1, Lesson number 2, Motions of the Earth. Dear students, before we begin with our today's session, let's revise this lesson. Yesterday, you studied about the rotation of the Earth and the revolution of the Earth. Earth takes 24 hours or a day to rotate around itself and 365 days or 366 days to revolve around the sun, that is 1 year. The inclined axis of the earth about equator and how this equator divides the earth into two parts, that is the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Then the rotation of the earth gives rise to day and night, and the revolution of the earth and the inclination of its axis give rise to the cycle of seasons. Then the earth takes 365 days and 6 hours in a year to complete one revolution around the sun, that is a year. You also studied about what is the Gregorian calendar and also about a leap year. Then the seasons of India and how festivals are connected with the seasons. Dear children, today you will be learning about the Earth's satellite. The Earth's satellite is the moon. Children, can you tell me what is the name given to the changing shapes of the moon that we see? And what are the names of the days on which we see a round moon and on which we see no moon at all? To find these answers, let's try to understand the term phases of the moon. When we look up in the sky during night, we see the moon in different shapes. Sometimes we see the moon big and bright, and sometimes we see the moon in smaller size, or sometimes there is no moon at all in the sky. Look at this picture. In this picture, you can see the different shapes of the moon. As we all know, the moon revolves around the earth and the earth revolves around the sun. However, these two orbits intersect. The word revolves means the earth moves around the sun and the moon moves around the earth. That is called revolves. Children, what do you mean by orbits? You have already studied about this. An orbit means the path that the earth takes to travel around the sun and the path that the moon takes to travel around the earth is called orbit. So, these two orbits intersect. Intersect means to pass or to come across each other. Hence, the sun, the moon and the earth are not always along a straight line. Dear children, it means the sun, the moon and the earth are not always remain along a straight line, but whenever they come in a straight line, we experience the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. From the earth, we see half of the moon's surface which faces the earth. That is, from the earth, we see only one side of the moon, not the other side of the moon. As we studied that only stars have their own light and planets, satellites, and other heavenly bodies do not have their own light. In the same way, the moon is a satellite. The moon has no light of its own. We can see the moon only because of the sun's light that falls on it. Sometimes we see the full moon at night. So, on a full moon night, we see the entire side of the moon that faces the earth. And on a new moon night, we cannot see any of it. A new moon night means when there is no moon in the sky. The moon is present at his place in the sky, but only we are not able to see it from the earth. From the full moon to the new moon, the illuminated part of the moon seen from the earth becomes smaller and smaller. The illuminated part means the bright part or the lighted part of the moon can be seen from the earth becomes smaller and smaller. From new moon to the full moon, it again grows bigger and bigger. Here children, remember that the moon is not growing bigger or smaller, but the lighted part or the bright part which can be seen from the earth of the moon grows bigger and bigger or smaller. These different shapes of the moon that we see are called the phases of the moon. Now, let's try to understand waxing and waning moon. Dear children, it takes 14 or 15 days from new moon to full moon. New moon means when we do not see the moon in the sky, and full moon means when there is a big circle moon in the sky. So, it takes 14 or 15 days from new moon to full moon. This is the fortnight. Fortnight means 2 weeks equals to 14 days. So, 14 or 15 days it takes from new moon to full moon, and this is called or this is the fortnight of the waxing moon. After the full moon, the moon appears smaller and smaller, and after 14 or 15 days, it is new moon again. This period is the fortnight of the waning moon. Thus, the period from one new moon to the next is of 28 or 30 days. It is called the lunar month. Now, let's try to understand this again. The period from the new moon to the full moon is of 15 days, and this is called the waxing moon. And according to Indian solar year months, it is also known as Shukla Paksha in India. And the period from the full moon to the new moon is of 15 days, and this is known as waning moon, and this is also known as Krishna Paksha in India. The fortnight of the waxing moon and the fortnight of the waning moon together is called a lunar month or the moon month. Dear children, what we have learned today? The rotation of the earth causes day and night. The revolution of the earth around the sun and its inclined axis together cause the seasons. The revolution of the moon around the earth gives rise to the phases of the moon. The period from one new moon to the next is called a lunar month. It has about 28 to 30 days. The fortnight ending on a full moon is that of the waxing moon, and the fortnight that ends on a new moon is that of the waning moon. The days of the lunar month are called tithis. Dear children, I hope you all have enjoyed this lesson. But don't forget to complete your worksheet. Thank you.